meniscus roots. And the title is Good, Bad and the Ugly, and of course we have to pay all respects to this fantastic gentleman Clint Eastwood for this amazing movie. So what are medial meniscus root tears? This is like a 47-year-old lady with a BMI of 28, had a 7-week-old injury to her right knee, which is not settling with non-surgical treatment, doesn't have a lot of varus, only about 2 degrees. She's got preserved joint space, and she's got about grade 1 to grade 2 KL chondral changes. Her cruciates and her lateral tibiofemoral joint and her patellofemoral joint are intact. And of course, what she has is a root tear. And how do we treat this is the essential question. So root tears do represent a silent epidemic. Very frequently, they will see us before we see them. And typically, they are avulsions or radial lesions within 10 millimeters of the bony tibial attachment. The importance of these root tears is that if you treat them non-surgically, a significant number of them will have poor outcomes, especially if they are associated with extrusion and they have a high propensity to develop into osteoarthritis. A landmark paper that was published almost about a decade ago does show that if you look at the joint reaction forces or the joint contact forces in a normal knee versus a root tear, the yellow being the higher contact forces, the blue being lower contact forces, the forces of a root tear will closely mimic that of a meniscectomy, and which is why it is important to understand that root tears are not very good. This is a very nice representation of how the meniscus extrudes when a root tears. My good friend Hore Chahala was very kind enough to lend this to me. And with a root tear, you can easily see that the meniscus starts extruding. And we are very well aware that if you have a root tear and if you leave it alone, the risk of you landing up with a total knee, if you're less than 60 years, is almost about 78% if you don't treat them. So partial meniscectomy does not work if you have a complete root tear. Because if you do a partial meniscectomy in the presence of extrusion, it is going to fail to halt the progression of osteoarthritis, which is essentially what we are trying to prevent. So what is it that the rare rabbit is trying to tell us as to when should we be doing them and when should we be not doing them? So essentially the goal of doing a root repair on the medial side is to restore obviously the anatomy and thereby the biomechanics by restoring the hoop stresses. And the ideal indication to do a root tear or the good indication to do a root tear would be to have someone who does not have significant coronal plane malalignment and who does not have chondral wear. The other extreme where it is bad to do a root tear is if you have an extremely degenerated root tear in the presence of significant osteoarthritis. These are probably not the lesions that you want to touch in the first place itself. So if you look at the good indications or the ideal indications, you need someone who has coronal alignment within 3 degrees of deviation. The posterior tibial slope should be less than 9 degrees. There should be normal BMI. There should be absent or minimal bone marrow lesions. The meniscus extrusion should be less than 3 millimeters and the meniscus quality should be healthy. And that's an example. This lady, the same lady that I showed you, you can see that there's an extruded root, but the extrusion is almost about 3 millimeters. There's no significant bone marrow edema. The cartilage looks pretty healthy. There's some thinning on the medial femoral condyle. And then this is what it looked like at the time of the surgery. You did a good anatomic repair, and this is a follow-up MRI scan and an arthroscopy done 18 months after the procedure. You can see that the extrusion is completely reduced and the root is very well healed. But this situation is usually less often seen than what we would like it to see. And very frequently we have the bad roots, which we tend to treat more commonly because they are the ones which are more symptomatic. And these are the ones who are going to have all of these parameters which I have listed below. So essentially, less than 5 degrees, still not a very good indication to do an osteotomy, but hovers around the borderline. So these are probably the patients that should be placed in an offloader brace for at least about 5 to 6 months post-surgery to try and restore their hoop stresses. If they have a posterior tibial slope again, which is less than 12, it's important that we again control them with a brace. If they're overweight, I think now we have very good GLP-1 therapy which is available, which should be suggested, and as clinicians I think we should be getting our endocrinologists involved to try and help them out. If they're bone marrow lesions, again the use of a brace is important, and my main focus is trying to tell you as to how we can reduce the extrusion. So extrusion is not something new. It's been described almost about 20 years ago. And interestingly, the first publication of the same has actually come out in a journal of radiology more than anything else. So the threshold for pathologic extrusion, as we agreed today, is roughly about 3 to 5 millimeters, or is almost about 25% of the width of the meniscus body. How do we measure them? Of course, we do MR scans. But the fallacy of measuring extrusion on an MR scan is that we don't do it under loading, and extrusion will worsen when we load. So it's safe to assume that if you're about 3 to 4 millimeters extruded on an MR scan, then under loading conditions, if you take them for a sonography, they would extrude far, far more, and that will lead to problems. So why does the meniscus extrude? It extrudes because your medial meniscotibial ligament is at fault. And it's basically the role of chicken and egg, what came first. There's a good theory that essentially first the medial meniscotibial ligament fails, and because of the increased forces after an extrusion, the root will fail secondarily. So this is also a very good explanation in which you can see patients in whom they have extrusion first, that goes uncorrected, that goes unaddressed, and eventually the root starts failing. Why is it important? It is important because once your meniscotibial ligament fails, then the joint compressive forces worsen. And the good part about all of this is that if you restore your meniscotibial ligament, you can restore the compressive forces to the same place. I don't know what has happened here. I don't know. See this? There is something that happened. Why are you changing passwords? Okay. Apple account is me. Who is this?
Somebody from Mumbai is trying to sabotage.
It has to be you, Roshan.
I'm here, brother. I'm in front of you.
So, anyways, so why is extrusion important? So, Jingo Kim evaluated his 10-year follow-up results of meniscus root repairs. He had almost 75% of them that healed, and he had about 22% of them which did not heal. Why is this critical? Because if you analyze his failures, he found that if you had varus more than 5 degrees, and if you have extrusion which was persistent after your repair, which was more than 3 millimeters or 4 millimeters, they were the ones which are more likely to fail. So how do you control this extrusion? You can control it by doing either a capsulodesis or a centralization. What is essentially done in a centralization is that you place one anchor posterior to the superficial MCL and you try and bring this root back in. And that's what we are. This is a root tear, as you can see, and you can see that this is probably an ideal indication to do a root tear. Of course, with a root tear you will have some degree of extrusion which is variable, and now you can see that there's a significant amount of almost 20 to 22 millimeters of the tibial plateau that is not covered. You repair the root, you bring it down, but still you have almost about 15 to 16 millimeters of the tibial plateau that is not covered, and now you add a centralization suture on the articular cartilage of the tibia posterior to the superficial MCL, and by doing this you are able to decrease this exposed tibial plateau to about 10 millimeters. The other way you can do it is to do a capsulodesis, in which you place two or three knotless anchors, one behind the posterior border of the superficial MCL, the other in the front, and then you bring the whole capsule inside. So let's look at this. This is root tear along with meniscotibial injury. Again, about 20 millimeters of the tibia is exposed. The meniscus root is extruded, is sort of displaced about 3 to 4 millimeters. And now the first step that you will do obviously is to do a good root repair. You have to be anatomic. You have to see and be very close to the shiny white fibers. You take your bites. You can take 2 or 3. Normally I prefer to take 3 bites. I'll just skip this in interest of time. And now after pulling this back, you have to see that the whole root dunks inside your tunnel. which is the kind of appearance that you have to have. It should not sit on the top, but it should be dunking down. Then you want to get your sutures in. You're going to be making a submeniscal exposure. The first one is going to be posterior to the superficial MCL. You place your first 1.8 knotless anchor, and then you will have your first bite that goes through the meniscotibial ligament, pulling these sutures out. So again, in interest of time, I'll try and sort of fast forward this video a bit. We're going to be pulling the suture out. This is your second anchor, which is again at the edge of the tibia. Again, you're going to be getting your sutures inside the joint, and once you get them in, you're going to be taking a bite through the meniscotibial ligament. And now what you're going to be doing is you're going to be shuttling sutures of the first and the second anchor outside the joint. If you repair the root only, you have about 15 to 16 millimeters of the tibia exposed. But when you do a capsulodesis and close everything down and centralize this extrusion, you would find that the amount of exposed tibia that you have now is only about 10 to 12 millimeters, which is essentially what you're trying to achieve. So this is a very important tool that we should all be using, and that's essentially what you want to achieve. So that's this example. We started off with 6.5 millimeters of extrusion, and we've ended up on an 18-month MRI scan with only a millimeter of extrusion, and these are your critical aspects. Osteotomy is your next important technique, and whenever you have varus which is inching closer towards 5 degrees, you need to do an adequate planning, and this is again going to help improve the success of your meniscus root repair and convert this bad tear into the good category. Lastly, we'll briefly touch upon the ugly roots. These typically are in the obese patients with increasing varus, with more extensive bone marrow edema and more extensive chondral changes. The meniscus quality is also suspect. This is a lady who has a BMI of 32. Again, you see she does not have significant varus, but when you study her MR scans, you can observe that there's significant root extrusion, almost about 75 to 80%. And the key here is that she's got very poor degenerate signal in her meniscus tissue with extensive bone marrow edema, and these are probably the worst ones to do. So to conclude, if you want to classify your good, bads and uglies, be careful about those which have varus malalignment, who have high slope, high BMI, who have extensive bone marrow lesions and extensive extruded meniscus extrusion. You have certain modifiable factors that you can control, but you have to choose your correct patient for a good outcome. Thank you very much.